Starting this bulletin with a news alert coming in from Japan, where a 7.4 magnitude earthquake hit north-central part of the country. A tsunami warning was issued earlier and it has hit the Japanese coast shortly thereafter. Now, the Japan's Meteorological Agency had issued a tsunami warning along the coastal regions of Ishikawa, Niigata and Toyama prefectures. Tsunami hit the sea of Japan's coast. Waves more than 1 meter high hit the coast of Wajima city in Ishikawa prefecture. Evacuation alerts have also been raised by weather authorities. Authorities are also checking all nuclear reactors in the country. For more on this, we are now joined by our correspondent, Andrew Woods. He joins us live from Hong Kong. Andrew, what is the information you are picking up right now on the tsunami situation off the Japanese coast?
Well, this counts as a serious earthquake because its magnitude is higher than magnitude 7. The tsunami warnings have been issued, waves up to a meter higher than usual, so that's relatively modest. And there are a few reports of any casualties or anything yet. We're still waiting for the police and the relevant authorities to start collating this information. I have to say, it's of course, as soon as you have an earthquake in Japan, you cannot but help think what happened in 2011 with the Fukushima tidal wave tsunami hitting the nuclear power station there. I remember that was actually the worst earthquake in Japan's history, and the tsunamis were reckoned to be up to 40 meters higher than usual. So this is a relatively modest earthquake in a country that experiences between 4 and 7 serious earthquakes a year, and about 1,500 earthquakes in general.
Right, you know, Japan is still recovering from the Fukushima disaster, as you rightly pointed out, with treated radioactive water being released into the sea over the last couple of months. What's at stake this time around? How do you see the impact of this tsunami in Japan?
Well, the first thing, of course, as you're mentioning, there's always problems, or rather, there's always questions asked about nuclear power stations. Are they safe? Japan has improved, or says it's improved, its safety regulations and the requirements for nuclear power stations to be able to withstand tsunamis. In this case, if the waves are only a meter high, then that's probably not so bad. Remember, the problem in Fukushima was not that the nuclear reactor itself in a way was affected. It was because of the cooling pumps, or the pumps that pumped coolant around the reactor. They broke down, their they lost their power supplies, and so they weren't able to cool the reactor, and that was at the center of the problem and why the reactor basically, why things went wrong. In this case, I think things are an awful lot safer. And as I say, remember, the Japanese are used to earthquakes in a way that people in many other parts of the world are not. Japan is a place where a lot of tectonic plates meet and rub up against each other and ride over each other, and earthquakes in Japan are relatively frequent. The Japanese are particularly well prepared for earthquakes, and certainly the initial reports that we've got coming out is of relatively low damage, but of course that might change. At the moment, as I say, the emergency authorities are compiling information, and we might hear more in the future.
Having learnt a lesson since 2011, how prepared is Japan right now to tackle this particular disaster that has struck the coastline?
Well, remember, Japan is a developed country. It is, the number. It was until China overtook. It was the #2 economy in the world, and it's still a very rich place. It has. Although it's called a self-defense force, it actually has one of the largest militaries in the world. And so it has a lot of resources that it can call upon to help people. And the civil authorities and the military and so on are very well practiced in helping people after there have been earthquakes. And the area that was struck it's not like this hit the centre of Tokyo. Of course, there's always those worries that after the great earthquake in the first decade or so of the last century, that Tokyo is due another earthquake, although that could be tomorrow, it could be in 100 years' time. Nobody really knows, but the Japanese are very well prepared for the worst.
Yes, as you rightly pointed out, the Japanese are very well prepared for the worst, but it has also raised fears among the local people out there of mass evacuations, which has just happened ahead of this particular tsunami that has hit the coastline. Take us through the situation on ground right now. What are you picking up from your sources?
Well, mass evacuations, the great thing about this was that the mass evacuations were ordered before the tsunami actually came anywhere near to hitting the coast. Again, large areas, lower areas being evacuated. Obviously, in this case, I think if you're the governor of the local region, or if you're the person in charge of coordinating the response to an earthquake and a tsunami, you're probably going to err, or hopefully err, on the side of caution, and that more people may well, or more areas may well be evacuated than turns out to be necessary. And certainly that's the hope here.
And to stay with us on the broadcast, Sonia Blaski, a journalist, is joining us live from Tokyo to give us the latest inputs on ground on the situation unfolding there. Sonia, do tell us what's happening right now. The tsunami has just struck the coastline of Japan. What are you picking up?
Yes, a lot is happening this afternoon. We've had the biggest tsunami warnings in many years. And I think the most alarmed I've heard newscasters here in a long time. Every, I would say, 10 minutes or so, there are more earthquake alerts coming through the system. At the moment, I mean, the biggest warning is 5 meters. In some other places, 3 meters and 1 meter. In some places, the tsunami has arrived. So far, the biggest seems to be 1.20 meters, but they keep warning that that's just an approximation. That is kind of the minimum size. So it could be much bigger. And they also warn that people should not think, now the danger is over. They should really stay on the alert, get away from the coast, get up on top floors of concrete buildings, and really make sure they're safe. So this is really one of the biggest earthquakes we've seen in Japan for quite some time. And yeah, not the way to start the new year, I guess. So.
New Year there, Sonia. Do tell us more if there's any other alert issued by Japan's Meteorological Agency.
Yes, there are different warning levels depending on the size of the tsunami. And there's the biggest warning level of 5 meters at the moment, or that's the estimate anyway, is for the area close to the epicenter, which is the Noto Peninsula in Ishikawa prefecture. So from Tokyo, a few hundred kilometers, basically northwest of the Japanese capital. And then in the areas nearby, there are strong tsunami warnings, and in other places, even up to the north of Japan, to Hokkaido, and to the very south to Kyushu, there are lower tier alert levels. But yeah, this at the moment it's getting dark in Japan, so authorities are warning people now to really make sure, if they haven't evacuated yet, to really use the chance before the light is gone to make sure that they are safe.
Sonia Blaski joining us from Tokyo. Thank you so much, and do continue giving us all the latest updates on the unfolding situation on ground. Many thanks to Andrew Woods also for joining us.